Telstra is Australia's leading telecommunications company and has an international presence spanning over 20 countries. In 2019, Telstra opened the doors of an innovation and capability center based in Bangalore. So I'm delighted to welcome our three guests for this fireside chat. We have Mr. N.T. Arun Kumar, Managing Director and Country Head India and Head of Innovation, Global Business Services, Telstra. So welcome, Mr. Arun Kumar, and congratulations on the fantastic work and achievements by Telstra in India. So just a little bit about Mr. Arun Kumar. He is the MD for Telstra India and leads Telstra's GBS's innovation functions. In this role, Mr. Arun Kumar oversees development of and delivery from Telstra's Innovation and Capability Center in India, helping Telstra's business transformation to a digital, agile, and innovative technology-led solutions company for its customers. We have Dr. Ajay K. Garg, Director, HOD, International Cooperation and Bilateral Trade, Innovation and IPR, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. He's representing the ministry today as the Secretary had been called in urgently for a meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Garg, for accepting our invitation, and so pleased to have you here. Dr. Garg is Director in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, is tasked with the responsibilities of key divisions. He heads the International Cooperation Division, which has a mandate for promoting international trade and cooperation, driving ITES sector, apart from managing the responsibilities of e-commerce and innovation and IPR divisions and the ministry's website. So I think we're really, really pleased to have you and Mr. Arun Kumar, the right people to be having this conversation. And to moderate this chat, I'd like to welcome Gavin Standen, who is the Executive Partner, Ecosystem Telstra. Thank you, Gavin, for doing this. Now, Gavin is an executive with Telstra India. He leads Telstra's GBS's partner ecosystem. In this role, Gavin oversees development of partner delivery from Telstra's Innovation and Capability Center in India, helping Telstra's business transformation to a digital, agile, and innovative technology-led solutions company for its customers. And with that, I will hand over to Gavin, as I think we're all really, really looking forward to this conversation. Over to you, Gavin.
Thanks a lot, Petula. I really appreciate the very kind introduction. And it's great to have the captain of the industry in Arun Kumar here, along with Dr. Garg as a captain from the government, to pretty much do a little bit, give us a little bit of a horizon plan in terms of how we want to really shape the whole digital economy, and most importantly, the focus that we have on that. So let me first start off with Dr. Garg. First, thanks for putting together the vision of a 1 trillion digital economy target by 2025. And come COVID, I think so the whole digital connectivity got accelerated to a pace that we didn't even think of, or probably didn't even plan. And it happened for a good reason, and I think so those are some positives that have happened. But keeping this in mind, Dr. Garg, how fast do you think we can get to not only the $1 trillion digital economy, but making sure that the digital economy touches every citizen across the country? You're on mute, Dr.
Garg. Thank you, Gavin, for giving me this opportunity to interact with the Indian-Australian folks from the industry as well as the government. First of all, my apologies on behalf of my secretary for not being here. He was keen to join this fire chat, but due to some unforeseen reasons, he has to go for some other engagement. So I'm actually fitting into his shoes, and they are too big to handle. But anyway, I'll try to do my best. So you talked about a $1 trillion economy, digital economy, as part of the total $5 trillion economy that India looks to achieve by 2025. So that makes 20% of the total economy to be digital. Whereas in today's date, if we look at the Indian IT sector, it represents around 8 to 10% of the total economy. So how do we look at it in terms of that? How do we achieve from 10% to 20%, from 350 billion to from 300 billion around to a trillion dollars. So that's more than its 300% growth. So what I see that if we only look at the pre-COVID era, with the emergence of the emerging tech like AI, ML, adaptive manufacturing, and all of that, the economy has moved from industry 3.0 to the industry 4.0. That's where the industry comes in. Then there is an opportunity that has been created by a very high-speed network around the 5G. These two things combined together actually enables a mechanism in which digital will touch all sectors. The next phase of growth that will come in the agri-tech, manufacturing, logistics, transport, automobile, and you name a sector, everything will come out of, I think, what digital economy is. So not only in India, but globally, what I think is in coming 3 to 4 years, 20% of the global economy will be digital. And looking at the size of India and looking at the opportunities in India and looking at the base infrastructure that India has created under the Digital India program, India has got a much stronger platform for this to be achieved, which I'll talk about it subsequently. On top of it, COVID has actually accelerated the digital space, whereas all other sectors of the economy in India face challenges. But the digital economy made a very robust growth of 10 to 12% in the last 1 year. And that represents that first, India did something very different and correct. And second is that COVID is an enablement of further digitalization of the economy. What India did is that during the lockdown, which was one of the, whereas all other countries in the world had a problem of the global supply chain disruption, but Indian IT sector, which represents a $190 billion economy, remained uninterrupted because some of the very fast-track measures taken by the government to enable work from home, people moving out of SEZs, working from home, there were a whole set of regulatory issues that had to be handled. The VPN infrastructure being enabled at a scale which is unprecedented in nature. In my government, in the government itself, if you look at it, around only 2% of the people had a VPN prior to COVID or prior to lockdown. And just in few days, our national informatics infrastructure actually enabled possibility for getting VPN for all government employees across the country. And that's a representation of what we did that enabled an uninterrupted services sector remaining and letting all the large industries globally remain operational because they are the key backbone for this. So as a whole, the global economy is for a leapfrog growth in the digital space, and the Indian economy has, at top of it, has a much bigger chance to reach it at for a $1 trillion economy. Why? India did something very differently in the digital space and the Digital India program. And as far as an infrastructure is concerned, we thought that the connectivity, and that too in high-speed connectivity, is a key enablement. The BharatNet infrastructure, where a gigabyte connectivity is being provided to every village point, and that is being rolled out at a pace which is which has never been seen before in India and many of the developed economies even, provides a highway to 70% of the Indian economy, which was untouched by the digital space. India's experiment with public digital platforms through the digital identity or the unified payment interface, or be it DigiLocker or cloud space and all that, has actually paid dividends of enablement of innovation to be inclusive and open, and has actually created a large pool of companies that are actually in the digital space, not restricting it to few players. The second is that we have provided through the policy space as well as through the basic infrastructure provisioning that all big, small, Indian and international players become competitive in a single space, providing services to the citizens at the rate which is very, very competitive globally. If Telstra, I know they are a role example of the success of telecom infrastructure in Australia. But what you must have seen is the data charges in India is one of the lowest in the world, and that is a key enablement of digitalization that is possible. The strong startup ecosystem, which is robust, low cost, and frugal in nature, solving problems on ground, because we not only have got a very strong STEM workforce, with the age of the average age of India being 30 to 35 pays dividend in that space. The STEM workforce actually creates a possibility of solving problems that actually only the digital space can solve, and innovation can be the key enablement. And that India has done, and that creates an opportunity, because we not only have a very strong STEM workforce, but we also are the largest pool of problems globally. So that combines together to create a very strong possibility to create. So what we have done is, through this low-cost, frugal solution, is that we have made it possible that the global market for digital space moves from the top 1.5 billion to the whole 7 billion global population. And there is an opportunity that lies ahead. There is an opportunity for global partnerships with very trusted partners and futuristic democracies like India and Australia, to create a space for not only providing better services to the rest 1.5 billion people, but also great business opportunities in that space. So that's my initial views on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. I really appreciate your views there. And actually, a good segue towards your last point about STEM. And probably I'll flip the question over to Arun Kumar here. Arun, I think I always have the saying, earlier industries came to India for cost, but today they stay back for innovation and the eclectic way that the Indian workforce has really started upon. You are pretty much the champion of innovation for Telstra overall. What do you think we should do more of from a government standpoint to really fast-track the policies that we need to really, I would say, put to ground in terms of really accelerating our innovation and access to innovation and talent within India?
I think it's a great question, and a question we find ourselves faced with almost every day, and not just us as Telstra, but almost all the companies that have set up technology base in India, which today constitutes 8 to 10% of the GDP, as Dr. Garg mentioned. I guess there are 2 or 3 things that we should look at to leverage, and a few things that we need to improve. Does government's trust on digital, whether it's the 1 trillion target, 20% of GDP, the kind of infrastructure investment that the government is making in digital, the fiber, support to startup ecosystem, different policies. The Prime Minister has been very vocal about Digital India. He's been a big supporter of technology and infrastructure build out. So I guess the environment is just about right for companies, private sector, to really make use of and to overlay on top of the talent that we have amassed. Right? And I guess the critical thing from an innovation perspective is, so far the Indian industry has been a very limited, export-oriented, labor-intensive industry. We're focused on providing cheap labor. And I think in the last 1 decade, the digital transformation has actually made us look, as an industry and not just as a company, made us look at opportunities of leveraging this talent for much more than cheaper, better, faster. I think it's about smarter, it's about building products for the world. And to a great extent, I think initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat actually is a great encouragement for private sector companies. even global MNCs that have set up base in India, to really look at in what way can we use this talent to work in developing the next big digital frontier in this country, which obviously being the largest democracy, the kind of demographics we have, and the right environment that we're building is probably the next frontier for all industries and all markets. So that said, I think the digital economy and the digital vision requires a much different view of enabling the private sector than what the previous era did. While there's been a lot of progress and there's been a lot of encouraging conversation from the government, I think the real pudding is in the eating. And when you get down to brass tacks, easing of labor laws, easing of myriads of complex laws that govern India, and that can make operations of companies like us very, very challenging in this environment, needs to be simplified at a pace that is unprecedented. We've seen a lot of good efforts, and we encourage that. We welcome that. But I think that pace, if you have to grow to be a 1 trillion digital economy, has to be very different. It has to be, we have to prepare the business environment and the legal environment, the regulatory environment, etc., in line with the future digital economy and not take the past legacy into the future. So there's significant work. And that's where, again, the private sector can help. And I think the public-private participation model must be unleashed in every sector. Right? Coming to innovation, I guess companies are now looking at how do you leverage India's talent, not just to kind of deliver what we are asked to deliver, but to go beyond it. And I guess Telstra is leading that. We're creating here in India future workforce. What we're doing in India is not offshoring jobs or to run skills that are cheaper to do here. What we're doing here is to really look at how will the telecom industry and the technology industry, which are converging very, very fast, how will this industry, this convergence look like in 2025? And in order to thrive in that industry for our customers and for our ecosystem, what skills will be needed to really innovate for our customers, for our market? And those are the skills that we are seeding here today. And as we are doing that, I guess some of the initiatives that are also happening from the government side in the country are very, very relevant. You look at issues surrounding data privacy. You look at issues surrounding faster access, mobile broadband access to people. You look at software pervading almost all citizen services. These are areas where the private sector can help immensely and co-innovate. So I think the next few years would be about co-innovating in India with our ecosystem. And the government is a big stakeholder in it, not just in terms of providing incentives and encouraging, but in terms of catalyzing the collaboration amongst various players and opening that up. So I'm very positive and optimistic. I think Telstra, given that we are the leading 5G providers, almost first in the world, and pioneering this in Australia, we are very keen that we use India's talent to really bring forth new innovation for our customers and our markets. And to that extent, I guess what we're doing here in India is very, very important. It's important also for the government to learn from players like us in terms of, if we can do this for one segment and one industry, how can this model be replicated? How can multiple players like us be brought together so that it is an economic acceleration? That's one side of it. But also, India has a huge demographic advantage. How do you make sure that what companies like us are doing are used to dramatically upskill, reskill a large population of India so that the digital divide doesn't affect us, and we bring more and more people in the right age group and the workforce into the digital mainstream and work for the future of the digital economy of India.
Thanks, Arun. That is really good. I mean, and I want to really pick on one of the topics that you brought up, and I'll flip that question to Dr. Garg. Talking about 5G, the underlying question will also be, when can we see 5G? But a bigger question there is 5G, lies in fast data connectivity and creating a lot of new business opportunities. I would look at it more from an outcome base. To realize these new business opportunities, to Arun's point, a lot of collaboration across players in the telecom sector will be needed to really generate that value. Now, how do you think the government is going to ease out in creating this network of the future of not just collaboration, but co-creation and co-opetition among players? What is your view, Dr. Garg?
a very, very relevant point that first of all, understand that how has the world changed from the 4G to 5G, and where collaboration becomes key, and there is a specific role in this form of collaboration. Whereas in the 4G space, it was more related to hardware and infrastructure. The 5G is more software driven and more related to connectivity. So here two important things come into play is that one, the foremost factor is the trust and security. The second is that the 5G network is only as useful as the number of use cases that ride on it. And the third important thing is that this collaboration, coordination, and confidence has to be coordinated in a way that a trusted value chain is created around the 5G space. So you will not see a global collaboration happening, but collaboration happening between trusted partners. That is key enablement of this the 5G space. And here, the important relationship between India and Australia becomes far more important. India and Australia face the same set of problems, the same set of security issues, the same concerns around privacy of citizens. And at the same time, both look at technology as a key enablement for future growth of economies. So in this space, it is important that if Telstra has a state-of-art 5G testbed, it needs to be rolled out to important players globally, provide enablement of creating a large number of use cases that ride on it, and create business as well as inclusion opportunities in this space. And also makes the 5G richer as more and more use cases come. So collaboration becomes important, and that collaboration has to be trusted, coordinated, and the government plays a key coordination roles in this space. As far as India is concerned, that how do we ride on the 5G space? If you think that why India has got a possibility in the 5G space is for the reason that India has done something very differently, in which the key enabler for 5G is providing access to data. Now, in India, we have, I talked about it earlier also, we did an experiment around proprietary digital, on public digital platforms as an alternate to proprietary digital platforms. And we are, from our experience around the 3 or 4 platforms that we built in the last 4 or 5 years or 6 years, make them matured and saw the benefits of them coming. We are in the process of creating 10 to 15 more such platforms around key sectors of it. And yesterday, we rolled out the Smart City IODX platform, where the Smart City data is available for all. On the 15th of August, we created the Health Stack. We are in the process of creating an agri-tech platform, the logistic platform, the MSME platform. So all sectors of economy, enabling digital platform will be provided where the private and the government sector coordinate and collaborate to create services on ground around the 5G space. And the data is available for all for innovation to happen. Understand that what UPI did differently than many other wallets in the world, the wallet ecosystems in the world, is that UPI enabled connecting all banks together and connecting the fintech sector, which might be a startup, a large company, or an MSME, to actually ride on the whole pool of the complete banking system that is available. So it did not create a monopolistic ecosystem in India. Rather, it created an inclusive and collaborated ecosystem that Arun was talking about. And what I am happy, what Arun talked about, and which I will actually try to understand from him also through you, is that whereas the global uh, uh, R&D centers primarily were the back offices of the innovation happening in their home, in their corporate offices elsewhere in the world. Now, what I see is that these global centers are moving from just being back office to creating future innovation in India. And here is the next wave of growth in these GCCs also. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Garg. I mean, very, very good point. Arun, any reply to that?
No, I think it's a great insight coming from what Dr. Garg has been doing and what MeitY has been doing. And I think that the government, with its very progressive policies and support, has been doing a great amount of work in terms of breaking the silos that existed earlier. Because India's future is in digital and technology. We cannot otherwise reach 60% of our population with the kind of growth aspiration that the government has set for ourselves with a $5 trillion economy. And digital is the sure shot way to get that. Digital is also our vehicle to become a more inclusive and a level and create a level playing field for such a big population and such a big country. And our complexities are immense, as are our potential. So I guess what digital and technology focus does is to help simplify a lot of things. And if we are onto that path with simplification as our goal, which goes with the minimum government, maximum governance slogan, that's all about digital. It's less about anything else but digital. So I'm very glad to hear what I'm hearing from Dr. Garg. And I guess he's also right that GCCs, which have traditionally been back office in terms of their focus, are all now on the front foot. Most GCCs in India are serving customers in different locations directly. Most GCCs are developing products that have revenue impact. Most GCCs are directly contributing to P&L and valuations of their respective companies and markets. And that talent shift that has happened in India is really good, because that talent ecosystem can now be used to where India as an industry ecosystem and as a country economy wants to go. So very aligned thoughts, and I'm glad to hear what I'm hearing. Telstra, as you know, is very committed to workforce talent development in India. We believe that some of the future skills in the industry are best anchored out of India, best nurtured out of India, and we're doing what any forward-looking customer-centric company would do. And we are joined in our sentiments and action by several other industry leaders in their segments that also think that the talent in India is the future business for their respective markets. So I hope to live and steer this discussion and this topic through the efforts that Telstra is making, working along with the opportunities that the government in India is creating to nurture talent.
Thanks a lot, Arun. Really appreciate your views here, because I clearly feel the competitive advantage in the digital economy that we're going to define is going to rely on talent. And at the end of it, it's the combination of how the corporates, the government, and the academia together, and not to forget the startups that can really play a very, very big role. But thank you so much. So very, very insightful, Arun and Dr. Garg. As we close, sorry, we can go on and on till the cows come home here, but unfortunately we have to close. We have a 30-minute slot. But as we close, I think so one thing that we can clearly see, there's so much of passion when you talk about this topic, because for me, it is going to be the digital decade, and India will definitely spur into a very different orbit, not only that, but for a lot of companies outside, Telstra being one of them. And I think so Telstra is really investing a lot into innovation assets, into transformation assets, and thanks for really bringing that to bear, Arun. And Dr. Garg, any closing comments on your side, please?
Just a point which I missed out. It was very, very insightful hearing views of from saying some very good words about it. It's very heartening, and it's the only satisfaction as a government employee that you get. So But the last thing which I actually forgot to touch upon is that the disruption in the global supply chain which happened due to COVID actually created one more opportunity for India, that we missed out on the manufacturing sector, that too in the deep tech manufacturing, in the telecom space, in the electronic space per se. So the COVID provided, because of the disruption in the global supply chain, COVID provided us an opportunity to actually encash that opportunity. And I'm happy to see that my colleagues in the government actually worked at a speed which is unprecedented in nature. And during the strictest of lockdowns, on the 3rd of April, they came out with the performance-linked incentive scheme. And that has enabled the creation of a very strong electronic manufacturing ecosystem in India. And that will actually accelerate the possibility of the 1 trillion. So my view is that it won't take us 5 years to reach the 1 trillion reserve. It might take 5 years to reach a $5 trillion mark, but it will not take 5 years for us to reach a 1 trillion mark in the digital space. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Garg. Over to you, Petula.
Thank you, Gavin. That was, excellently moderated, and I think you got the best views out of both Mr. Arun Kumar and Dr. Garg, which I think is very, very encouraging for businesses in both countries, India and Australia, Australian companies looking at India, and also for this sector. So I think, there's been collaboration, open dialogue, and I'm hoping that this conversation, Dr. Garg and Arun Kumar, will be taken offline as well, and we look to see how this could work, for companies like Telstra, but also for others, and would be a great starting point and a great success story, I think, also for us as a chamber that helps to facilitate this bilateral trade and investment between both countries. So on behalf of everyone, and we will be sharing this video very widely with all our members and also on social media, because I think it's a great message to put out there. Thank you very much, Mr. Arun Kumar, for doing this. Thank you, Dr. Garg. Great to have the connect with the Ministry of Electronics and IT. So thank you for your presence. And thank you, Gavin, for doing such a fantastic job. I enjoyed it, even though, this is not my sector. I absolutely enjoyed listening to the discussion. And I'm sure many of our members did. So have a wonderful day, everyone. And thank you so much for being here on this Fireside Chat.
Thank you so much.
Good day. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.